In a world where the subordination of women was largely accepted as a natural and inevitable state of affairs, a bold and systematic critique emerged. This work is not a mere plea for sympathy but a rigorous philosophical and practical dismantling of the arguments used to justify female inequality. The author posits that the subjection of women stands as a primary, deeply entrenched barrier to human progress, a relic of a barbaric past maintained not by reason but by custom and sheer force of habit. From the outset, the case is framed as one of fundamental justice, asserting that the principle of liberty, the freedom to pursue one's own life without harming others, must apply to all human beings, regardless of sex. The existing system, which grants men legal and social dominion over women, is presented as a tyranny, as odious as any other despotism, and its persistence corrupts the moral foundation of society itself. The core of the argument tackles the pervasive belief that women's subordinate position is a result of their inherent nature. The author turns this logic on its head, contending that what we observe as female nature is itself a product of relentless subjugation. For centuries, women have been educated for submission, their potential stifled, and their choices confined to the narrow sphere of domestic life. To then point to their current capacities and declare them naturally unfit for public life, politics, or professional pursuits is a profound circular fallacy. It is impossible to know what women are truly capable of until they are granted the same opportunities for development, education, and self-direction as men. The observed differences in character and intellect between the sexes are not the cause of inequality but its most significant effect, cultivated by a system designed to produce compliant wives and mothers rather than autonomous individuals. Examining the institution of marriage as it existed under contemporary law, the work reveals it as a legal construct of shocking inequality. Upon marriage, a woman effectively ceased to exist as a legal person. Her property, her earnings, and even her very body became the dominion of her husband. She had no right to refuse him, no independent standing in court, and no legal claim to her own children. This legal civil death created a relationship not of partnership but of master and servant, fundamentally poisoning the possibility of genuine affection and mutual respect. The author argues that such an arrangement is not only unjust to women but also degrading to men, fostering habits of selfishness and arrogance instead of the virtues of empathy and fairness. True moral improvement for society, they suggest, can only come from relationships founded on equality, where love is a choice between free individuals, not a duty enforced by law. Moving from the private to the public sphere, the text makes a compelling utilitarian case for emancipation. The artificial exclusion of half the human race from participation in governance, industry, and the professions is a massive waste of talent and ability that society can ill afford. By forbidding women from competing in the open market or contributing their unique perspectives to law and policy, humanity loses out on a vast reservoir of potential genius and skill. Furthermore, the author challenges the notion that women's influence is purely domestic, arguing that even within the home, a woman educated to be a free and rational being would be a far better guide and teacher for her children than one trained in passive obedience. The moral and intellectual elevation of women would thus benefit everyone: men, children, and the entire social fabric. The final sections confront and refute common objections to equality. The idea that women do not desire change is met with the observation that their desires have been shaped by a system that punishes independence. The fear of social disruption is countered with the promise of a more just, prosperous, and harmonious order. The argument is not for an identical existence for men and women but for the removal of artificial, legally enforced barriers, allowing for a natural diversity of paths based on individual aptitude and choice, not predetermined sex. The ultimate vision is one of a partnership of equals, where the relationship between men and women becomes the highest form of human friendship, unleashing collective progress. This treatise is thus both a searing indictment of an unjust status quo and a hopeful blueprint for a future built on the principles of liberty, reason, and true human partnership.